Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us here on the ice. Brought to you by Dokes Book Fuels, Case Financial Group, Toby Hockey, and of course, Paramount Hockey Academy. Wayne, Kosior, different background for both you and I. I had to move into a warmer room. It's a little bit chilly in Manitoba still, minus I don't know what. How's Calgary? You just got in checking out some games?
Yeah, I actually just got in this afternoon. We were in Medicine Hat last night at a game and into Calgary today. And as you can see, there's some nice sunshine beaming through here, being a little bit further west. Still nice and light out, but it's pretty cold out here for Calgary weather. So
hopefully it warms up by the weekend. That's all I got to say. But the first topic we're going to discuss, Wayne, isn't a positive one. It's regards to some antics, some abuse, some negativity on the ice south of the border and here in my backyard in Manitoba. Let's first chat about what we saw this past weekend in the US PHL. Give us a bit of a rundown of what you saw and whether or not you think it's warranted.
well, that was a pretty bizarre incident. And for those that didn't see it, in the United States Premier Hockey League in the US on the weekend, there was an incident where a player was getting a penalty. And as he was skating by the referee towards the penalty box, he flat out dropped the ref. I mean, punched him right in the face, and the ref went down, which just unspeakable and unfathomable that somebody would do that. And, I'm quite sure that potentially will end that individual's hockey career. And frankly, I think it should end his career. We're just seeing way too many of these things happen these days. And, I'm not sure if it's kind of this culture that we're getting into now with the whole political issues that we're seeming to get and the extreme right and left and, people just thinking it's okay to take their liberties because that's their freedom or what. But definitely there is hockey rules and rules that we all have to live by, and you can't punch a referee, in my opinion. I welcome your thoughts on what you've seen there, Theo.
My first employment was at the age of 11 and 12, officiating the outdoor rinks, eventually making my way into the pre-junior levels while I was in high school. Any type of abuse on official wasn't tolerated. At the same time, there is zero support for officials, no matter how old you are, anywhere in that building. It's always going to be one side of parents or one side of spectators versus the other. And 98 times out of 100, the official is stuck in the middle to do a job where they get little respect for what they do. As much as we say them being even, trying to keep the game fair, coaches being on the same side of fair play. I agree. This type of action isn't allowed in the hockey rink. And as we see in this scenario, this type of action is being looked at more so outside the rink as further charges might be laid against that player. It is unnecessary. I mean, you're there to play a game that you're supposed to love. I don't care what type of feelings, emotions, bad day you're having. There is no reason for you to lash out on an official. For some reason, I also feel that this is also a great topic because now those that want to get rid of roughing calls and fighting in hockey can easily use this as an example, saying these types of antics can't be used in society. Why are we allowing them on a hockey rink? And for that matter, I say, Wayne, that's part of the culture that's still part of hockey in a sense. But I have to agree that there has to be some sort of further discipline on this player. Being banned for this season or banned entirely from the USPHL is one step. But like I said, I feel for officials. I mean, I did a study last year. I know Lakehead University did a study over the last 15 years about the drop in officials and the officiating numbers across not just hockey, but all sport, simply because they do not have the support of infrastructure, people in the stands, their own officiating crews. There's no reason why a 17-year-old or an older person, for that matter, needs to be abused like that without any type of help.
Yeah, exactly. And there's no place in hockey for it. And to your point, I'm quite sure this individual will be eventually charged criminally for assault, as he should be. That's outside the rules of hockey, right? I mean, as you mentioned, fighting is allowed in hockey. And to this date, I still have absolutely no problem about a mutually agreed to fight where two guys agree to go at it and settle a beef, just like you can pretty much do that on the street, right? If it's equal, you're both willing and going, and you got to settle beef. That's fine. But when one person attacks another completely unprovoked, sorry, that's illegal by the courts, and that should get that individual a lifetime ban from hockey.
If you're watching, I'd love to get some feedback from you, some likes or some comments on it. So if you are watching this live or later on, please give a comment below and let us know what you think. Let's move quickly to my backyard, the MJHL. This past weekend, something that, I have never seen in a rink, and probably, I've been around a lot of rinks, but to do what that player did to a fellow combatant on the other team, again, if you haven't seen the video or if you haven't seen the story, the Dauphin Kings were playing the Wayway Sikapo Wolverines, and a player who was on the Kings decided to do a terrible gesture towards one of the Wolverine players, and he has now been given a gross misconduct, which is obviously 1-game suspension, but further discipline will be in place, I'm sure. Huge ramifications, not just within the hockey world, but just culturally, and how terrible of a move that is.
Yeah, I mean, again, completely uncalled for what went on there. But, in defense of that player, and again, I'm not defending his actions necessarily, but apparently there was players on the other team that were doing the same motions towards the Dauphin bench and players earlier in the game. Again, that's wrong. But also what this Dauphin player did in response is absolutely wrong. Like, it's the old two wrongs don't make a right. And so, yeah, you need to hammer down on these things where people are using cultural differences and stuff to attack other players. That's just not okay in today's world. And again, I think I still go back to this culture that's somehow developed in the world with all these protests that we're seeing, that everybody's suddenly claiming they got their freedom of speech and rights to say everything. And yeah, but you can't do something that negatively impacts somebody else, and you can't, if you blockade different things, you can't stop people from earning their own living and stuff like that. That's not peaceful protests. And I ultimately think this is kind of a culture that's evolving, and it's kind of leaked into the hockey world where, players think it's okay to punch somebody. Players think it's okay to do obscene gestures towards people. There's coaches, we'll throw them into the pile too, that are, abusive to players and stuff, abusive to refs. No, that's not okay. That's not freedom of speech. There's rules that prevent you from doing that. And, it's just gotten carried away. And I think these leagues have to come down harshly on these people. And, with social media now, I dealt with an incident this past weekend with one of the players that I represent that basically was getting cornered by a player. And it seemed like there was some politics at play here, and accusing this player of some social media abuse, and laid out some harsh punishment without any substantiation. And, as we investigated it, it was just a coach trying to bully a player that he had a beef with. And again, that is so offside. And, luckily we were able to put an end to that. But again, it's just some of the examples that are going out there. And again, I welcome your comments on the MJ incident and things in general.
Yeah, no, if you would like to see more of these comments, please do leave one below. When watching this, it's certainly attitudes, behaviors that we cannot allow in a sport that we love, because, there's no room for it. We can't condone it. I'm all for, letting you speak your mind, speak on your behalf. But as soon as you endanger or you harm somebody else because you feel that something is peaceful or free, that's not, because what you're doing is causing harm, disruption. As much as you feel as your side's bigger or stronger or more important, no, it's not. I'm sorry. Let's try to keep this even. Let's try to help out officials from time being, and let's make sure that we move forward on this matter. We're going to move forward away from this. We spent quite a chunk of time on that one, Wayne. Is it too early? Right now there's massive amounts of snow and north of the border, but is it too early to start talking about spring hockey clinics and camps that are happening south of the border? I looked some of the dates. We're like 6 weeks away from mid-April, and that's the beginning of development camps in the USHL.
Yeah, and everywhere, even here. All the junior A camps are starting to fire up, and they start in April. up north here and certainly down south. I mean, all the combines and showcases will be happening in the April timeframe in advance of the draft. Again, I'm dealing with a lot of clients that we're lining up junior A camps, as well as, going down to some of those North American League and USHL showcases. And so, no, it's not too early to think about this. There's the AAA camps are starting up also for the little bit younger guys. And, so players and parents need to keep an eye on that, especially if you don't have an advisor kind of looking out for you. Sometimes it's not wise just to sit and wait for invites. You have to get a little more proactive and reach out. I always tell our players it's good to have a little video clip to send out to teams and introduce yourself. And that'll get your foot in the door usually. And again, if you don't do that yourself, get your advisor to do it. And like I say, it's an important part of things in the process. I know too many families, especially at the younger ages, wait until August to start looking around. Well, regretfully, most of the decisions are actually made in April and May at these camps. And sure, there's always going to be one or two spots you can compete for when you come to the open camp in the fall. But the vast majority of the decisions will be made this spring for the rosters in 2022-23 season.
Yeah, you can't set up a house without having a blueprint, and the same thing is for every organization. You need to plan ahead. And I mean, we're looking, okay, March 1st is right around the corner, but that still, I mean, for players that are looking to get to that next level, whether it's junior north of the border or USHL south of the border, NAA south of the border, that first skate forward is imperative. Do we see a lot of players and a lot of organizations moving north or south of the border with relevance to showcases or playing in different programs or playing in front of different audiences? Do we see Canadians going south to USHL showcases and stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely. There's lots of Canadians heading south to those camps. And of course, there's also, junior teams from north of the border here that will go down and watch at those showcases too, because they, number one, know there's Canadians there. And of course, they know there's Americans. And, the junior A leagues in Canada, most of them allow up to 6 USA born players. In the Western Hockey League, it's unlimited players from the American side, as long as it's from the U.S. jurisdiction relevant to that major junior league. And so, yeah, goes both ways. And so they're great opportunities to be seen. But again, I always tell players, I mean, just don't even rely on just going to the showcases. Like, do your homework as far as reaching out to some coaches of teams that you're interested in. Do a brief professional introduction. It's got to be short to the point. And again, I can't reinforce it enough. It's important to have a little video clip. Sure, coaches can go to Instat and various hockey TV platforms, but that takes a lot of time. And if you tell a coach, yeah, take a look at me on hockey TV and stuff, they'll just delete it. But if you have a nice little clip that's posted online at YouTube or somewhere that's, a couple minutes long, I can almost assure you they're going to look at it. And if you catch their eye, it's going to move you up a higher notch on the ladder when you go to camp, and they'll actually be keeping an eye open for your camp. So again, all little tricks of the trade that, people can do themselves. If not, that's why they hire advisors like ourselves at Trailblazer.
TrailblazerHockeyAdvisors.com. I'm going to plug it right now there for you. And the bottom line is, if you can't provide them with something that's one click away to watch what you do on the ice, chances are organizations aren't going to sift through the weeds, find the needle in a haystack, looking for that one player out of 500, when you can easily copy, paste, give it to them right away, make sure it looks good, not too long, 1 or 2 minutes tops, highlight your skill set. Much better view. I like it. Before I let you go, Wayne, last thing we're going to chat real quick about the announcement of the World Juniors coming back in August. Now, so many questions are swirling around this. The reason, the antics, is it really worth it? Should we just have waited another year? But quite frankly, I have to say, after the phenomenal response of the Olympics and the women's side of things, I think they're benefiting more getting another chance to play in August before going into another World Championship. And is this something we might see in August moving forward, or is it going to move back to the Christmas time, do you think?
I think it'll go back to Christmas, just because, there's just too many complications with August with, professional hockey camps, which, the vast majority of these players are either playing, are drafted in the NHL. And so a lot of times those NHL camps will be starting not too long after that. Shouldn't coincide or conflict with those. And I'm sure they've looked at that piece of it. And then there's just too many people, in Canada and Europe, everywhere, that summer is a valuable time to be outdoors and doing things. So I don't see it being a long-term solution. I think they'll go back to the Christmas tradition, but I just think it's a part of, number one, giving these players the opportunity to compete as they were, should have had the chance to do. And for the communities that we're going to host, Edmonton and Red Deer, I mean, they put a lot of effort and money and resources into getting that set up. And I think it's a way to make sure that they see the benefits of, all the investment they made. So, I think it's a fantastic thing, but in summary, I don't see it being a permanent thing in August, and they'll go back to Christmas, and I welcome your thoughts.
It's the second most wonderful time of the year, and it's Boxing Day till January 5th. And I think that's just one of those things that for hockey in North America, we expect that. Whether it's the rest of the world, I mean, let's be honest, it's easier to travel to Canada in August as opposed to December, but we need it as a barometer. We need it as a temperature gauge, if you will, for the incoming classes, the drafts. I firmly believe as well, we got the Hlinka under 18, Hlinka Gretzky under 18. You have pre-development camps. You have junior camps. You have so much going on in August already leading into September. It's going to be such a cluster of not enough downtime for these players to prepare for where they really need to prepare. As much as you want to represent nation, you got to represent your professional career at the same time. And for a lot of these players, their next step is to play in professional hockey, whether it be in the NHL or whether it be overseas. So I agree, Wayne. I think it's going to be one of those things that we're going to look at as being a temporary fix. But like I said, for the women's program, I think it's fantastic. After what I saw in the speed across every nation, I mean, I was happy watching not just Canada and US, but the other teams that represented in the Olympics. There is some great hockey that is going to be showing up in the women's game in the not so near future. Wayne, I really appreciate your time tonight. I know you got a busy day in Calgary. Take care of yourself. Have a lot of fun while you're out there. We'll talk next Tuesday, and we'll get some more ideas and what players can do to prepare for these spring camps coming up, because I think that's a topic that we should be kind of looking at over the next little while.
Absolutely. It's a hot topic and a timely time of year. So I look forward to chatting to you about that next Tuesday. You have a great week there, Theo.
You as Wayne. Be good and be careful out there and safe travels.
Thank you.
We'll be back with Gordy Tummelson. He's stepping in from Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy. And the team that I was supposed to talk to, Coach Brad, he's still on a bus somewhere from Penticton. Hopefully he's coming home safe and he's coming back some cooler weather as well. Stay tuned. We'll be right back on the ice.
Welcome to Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy, your world-class academic and hockey training facility created to maximize each student's athletic and academic potential. Welcome to Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy, your world-class academic and hockey training facility created to maximize each student's athletic and academic potential. Blackjack Stewart Arena, home of the Buffalo, is inside the 46,000 square foot complex, as well as a curling rink and other facilities. The students have a unique combination of successful, well-rounded education at Pilot Mountain Collegiate Institute and the professional hockey training in an encouraging community. The years of experience of on-ice coaching propel our students to the next level, both mentally and physically, in a professional environment.
Joining me now from Pilot Mountain, Manitoba, Gordy Tummelson. Gordy, repping the gear pretty good. How you doing, buddy?
I'm great, Theo. Thanks. Appreciate that.
How was the drive down for you? You drove down today or yesterday?
Drove down today, and the drive was horrible. It was 50 kilometers an hour from Carmen to Darlingford, and then picked up to 60. So we were just zooming after that.
Well, you're probably good on the gas mileage, but it's still pretty chilly out there.
It was a little frustrating, a little chilly, a little scary. You're hoping everybody's doing the same thing by going nice and easy. And thankfully, for the most part, people in Manitoba know what to do when it gets like that. And everybody took it cool. And it was a nice, safe trip.
Shout out to the bus drivers still driving the team safely back home. I think Lyle's somewhere around Saskatchewan, Manitoba. I know he's not home just yet, but those getting those teams back safe is the first and priority for sure.
Oh, safety is the number one thing on, off the ice, whatever we're doing. You know, we want to make sure our kids come home, the bus driver comes home, coaches come home safe and sound. And so they're taking their time, and that's okay.
Absolutely. Gordy, you do a lot of talking throughout the week with a good friend of ours, Graham Forsyth, that runs his show Tuesdays and Thursday nights as well, or Tuesday mornings and Thursday nights, I should say. So we're not going to talk too much about the recaps of the weekend, but I got to ask you, because you've dealt with your goalies, you've talked to your goalies, you've set up camps and set up assessments with them, their feedback, subjective, objective feedbacks. We're almost at the end of the year. These goalies got to be a little bit tired. How, first and foremost, how are they maintaining their focus into these most important 2 or 3 weeks ahead?
Well, yeah, it's been an interesting year. It's been a tough year for the goalkeepers, probably averaging 50 plus shots a game for all three teams. And that's 2 games worth of shots in one game all year long. And so they've not had much of a break, but that's okay. You know what? We started off knowing that we were going to be in that kind of a situation. We thought that was going to happen, and it has happened. So we've kind of prepared ourselves mentally. And we go out with a positive attitude, trying to win every game, trying to support our team every game. And so when we start with that mentality, we're not worrying about too much other than keeping it out as much as we can, getting better at keeping it out as much as we can, and supporting our teammates. And that's kind of like that's the whole season. And right now, the kids are in pretty good spirits. Actually, we won some games in the weekend, and so that always helps. And we're closer to the better teams than we were at the start of the year. That's better. And I know the goalies feel like they've been around and they know more about the game. They've experienced more about the game. So all in all, it's been a pretty during a negative sort of season. It's been some positive things happen to them, and so they're in pretty good spirits, getting ready for the playoffs.
Talk about, I've talked to all three coaches over the course of the season, and it's about being where you are now and progressing to that next day, that next practice, we're seeing a little bit of improvement day to day to day. From your goaltending standpoint, I mean, the goals against have come down. The games have become much more competitive. They're a lot closer games now. Is that because the teams are building chemistry, knowing what they can do great and what they can't do anymore?
Yeah, there's a combination of things. We're playing some of the teams that are a little bit more our caliber. That's one good thing, and that's it's always a good thing to have. You're playing somebody that you can compete with. Whether you're the best team or the worst team, you're kind of hoping that you're going to play somebody that's going to be competitive, so you have a good game. Winning and losing almost doesn't really matter at the end of the day. It's kind of like playing the games and being in them to the end on either side. Yeah, our teams are getting better. They're doing better things. That's the whole purpose of this. It's player development. And so when you have players that have, do certain things good, do other things not so good, you got to get the not so good stuff improved and build on the good stuff. And we've done that. All three teams have done that. That's noticeable from day one. And we hear that from the scouts and from other teams. Our coaches talk to other teams. Our parents talk to other teams. Our bus driver talks to other teams, and so we do get to know what's going on and what's happening, and so yeah, we're feeling pretty good about the improvement our players have made individually, and that of course equates to good team play as well.
Have your goalies come to you, Gordy, and say, I've had a really bad game, Gordy or Coach? What did you do to forget about that last goal? Have they ever come to you for some help and say, what type of routine can I get? I mean, you see goalies, it's amazing how you can see them just forget about the last non-save and refocus into the game and what they have to do next. How hard is that for a goalie after facing 48 shots a game and knowing that they just haven't made some of the greatest saves? They've let a couple of bad ones in. What did you do as a goalie when you had a rough game? And what have you been telling your younger guys? Just, hey, how do we make that refocus?
Well, what I did when I went home was I bit the head off of anybody else that said hello to me. Let alone my poor mom. I felt bad for her. My dad, of course, he could deal with it, but my mom just I don't think she ever watched me play, so it was just too much. But yeah, you learn from those experiences, and the kids know that they're gonna give up bad goals. They don't like it, and it becomes a learned deal for them to not be bothered by being scored on, and that's not easy to do. It takes time because we all have a conscience, and the conscience kind of beats us up on the bad goals, doesn't allow for the good ones. So we talk about the good ones all the time now. We don't just talk about the two bad ones out of the 8 that they scored on and the 48 saves you made. Oh, you got to talk about that stuff. And then the other day, just so you, out of interest, I had one of our U15 goalies, Pete Moreau, do a video session with me, long distance from Pilot Mountain in Winnipeg, but we did it. And whereas he thought he had played poorly throughout the game and let in maybe way too many of the goals that were too easy, we went through them pretty carefully, frame by frame, thanks to ASTV and all the good stuff you guys do. And we were able to kind of show them, no, Pete, this was not your fault. This is other systemic problems we have, or the other team is really good, and this is what they did. And so you can't forget about the other team, because they have talented people too. So it's all about those kids understanding how the game works, and what's real and what is not real. And I'm fortunate. I got some experience and all that stuff, so I'm able to give them that information in such a way as that and after 6 months now, they've built up some trust with me. They know I'm not fibbing to them. They're not, I'm telling them the truth, and now they're smiling sometimes, even if they have a tough game. They even smile once in a while, so that's a bonus.
Gordy, last question before I let you get out of here. The goalies now have about 3 weeks or so, including that long weekend or that long week stretch for the final weekend in BC again. What do the goalies need to do to prepare so that their A game is on top level and they're doing their best between a 6x4 set of pipes?
Well, that's an interesting question. Not much different, other than the fact that playoffs are a different time of the year, right? It's a different season, and so they know that, and they know that their teammates are going to come back with a little bit more vim and vigor going into the start of this thing. They know that that everything's on the line now, so they got to really sharpen up. And so we have been going since the beginning of January we're trying to go on an uphill sort of direction to be better at what we're doing, and so building confidence, feeling good about their game, all that kind of good stuff. That's what we're working on, and they're pretty much there now. So it's just going out and repeat, make good saves, make good quality saves, feel good about the way you're playing, and go in and do your thing when the time comes.
Have you noticed anything quirky about their routines, any of the goalies, that you kind of like look at and be like, wait a second, would I have done that at their age? Or do I remember doing something like that when I was a young minder?
They're all quirky, and I little conversation. I'm going to have a bigger conversation right after we finish this with the goalie meeting, which we do every Tuesday evening. But yeah, every kid is different. And you know what? As long as the goalies are trying hard, playing pretty darn well, doing what they're doing, the coaches just leave them alone because it's a good thing, and they don't do too many really strange things, so it doesn't get out of hand. But yeah, everybody's a little bit quirky, but if they show up ready to play and they keep the puck out of the net, that's what they're asked to do. And everybody knows it's a pretty responsible position in sport that they've got, and it's hard on them emotionally and mentally. So they're left alone to be a little bit weird, and that's okay too.
Sorry, I lied. Last question. If
Sure.
you're a goaltender, Gordy, when you were a goaltender, were you more upset with a stick getting in front of the puck or a sliding defenseman that doesn't make the block?
No, that sliding defenseman's trying hard. I mean, it might be bad timing, but that player's giving their all. They're trying to block a shot, and you got to remember, back in our days, the equipment wasn't very good for any of us. So anybody trying to block a shot was taking bones. They're putting their bones at the mercy of the puck. But at the end of the day, no, I would never fault a player for trying to do something. If it's a stick play, if it's my guy, I'm just going to remind him not to touch the puck. I've got the big equipment on. Let me handle that. Leave it alone. If it's another guy in the other team and I'm going to tell them off. So either way, it's a it's a fun time. Either way, yeah.
Fun times are on their way. Like you said, a couple of weekends before the big weekends in playoffs out in BC for the teams. Gordy, really appreciate the time. I know you got to get going to a goalie meeting, so I'll let you go. Thanks so much for joining me on the ice tonight.
Hey, Theo, thanks. We appreciate what you guys do at ASTV for us. Thank you.
Gordy Tummelson with us here from the Pilot Mountain Hockey Camp. We'll be back on Thursday. We're going to have a father-son duo, very special guest at 6 o'clock on the ice Thursday night. Do come and watch. Really appreciate you taking the time this evening. Again, thanks to our sponsors, Dokes Book Fields, Case Financial Group, the Pilot Mountain Hockey Academy, and Toby Hockey, bringing more goodness to the greatness. Stay warm, keep bundled up, plug the car in, and drive safe out there, everybody. Take care and have a great rest of the evening. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye for now.